Well, the stories run wild and the laughs come free, with the duck and an eagle shooting the breeze. From paintball fields to campfire fun, you know the rowdy talk's just begun. Now kick up your feet and pour a glass, we're about to have a blast. We're the rowdy ones, we're the rowdy ones, the rowdy ones.
Welcome back to the Rowdy Ones. Really excited tonight to have my longtime friend and teammate Gant MacLellan on the podcast with us to catch up and tell some good stories. I think people might know you now from all the 10-man events and still winning hardware there, or seeing you at the Attktx booth. And I definitely want to get into that business that you helped create, because I think it's incredibly cool to see the comeback of an accessory company.
Yes.
When we were growing up, those were the biggest companies, right? Everyone had to do all these little knickknacks under their guns, and it made customization cool. So to see you guys doing that again, and the products you're coming out with is awesome. But before that, for the newer players now, what they don't know is, I mean, you were part of a mainstay on one of the most winningest teams of all time with me on the Philly Americans, and you're a big reason we won a lot of the tournaments that we did. And getting to compete with you in America as well as Europe and all those events was a lot of fun, and it was the better part of a lot of our early lives and led us to what we are now. So I mean, obviously, like I said, we'll get into the company. I would like you to get into a little bit of your origins and stuff for the people that might not know, because I think it's always interesting to see how people can become a part of a legendary team. And for you, you're a Georgia boy coming to a Southern boy, and then to end up on the Philly Americans based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then travel the world from there is a story worth telling for people that don't know. And then, like I said, I think you also have an interesting story, because you left your pro career kind of at the height of it. You weren't on the downside. You still had a lot of years left. You were still athletic. And, I just want to know, I think people are always interested in the mindset of why people make decisions, but then also what you do to get that competitive outlet away again, and then really what brought you back to the sport all these years later.
Wow. Well, Ryan, I just got to say, what an intro. And, you are just like myself, you are a student of the game, and the history is very important to you as well. And it is to me. And I feel like, even though, you grew up we grew up in the same time, but you were in a different area and you got to experience a lot of that whole Smart Parts history. I feel like I was the same type kid growing up. And I think that's what propelled me to kind of, like you said, how do you get on a team like legendary, like the All-Americans? But Hal, I just want to say it's nice to meet you as well. And I also want to say that you guys have a great intro. I think you guys have the most fun intro in paintball. That's for sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a lot of going back and forth, but AI has made things very. I know it's a sore spot, and I don't like the overuse of AI and things like that. But also, if you're on a low budget and you have creative intuition and know what you want, you can get good things out of it. So I kind of learned how to use like 6-7 different AIs to make everything from the cartoon to the actual song, and it was fun doing that as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's that's an interesting subject. But yeah, I mean, nowadays, who's not using ChatGPT for just it's the Google. But anyways, no, I really appreciate that intro, Ryan, and I'm looking forward to getting into all that. So let's see. Let me, I was thinking about this before I hopped on here, and I wanted to say that, so I grew up in Georgia, and the big teams there were 2Xtreme and Extreme. And it's kind of funny because I came across paintball a few other weird ways. I remember one time I was taking a karate class in this very tiny mall in Georgia, and lo and behold, one of the Paintball Atlanta stores was there. And I can remember after doing our little karate class, we would go over this little ice cream place, and I'd peek in this window, and I remember it was a very, very small storefront, and they had this like curtain in the back left that they would shoot paint, and I could see all the paint dripping down. Anyways, that was kind of an interesting time. And another time after
paintball stores used to exist in malls. We had them all around us. That had like, it was like it was a paintball shop, plus like they sold like all the cheap like swords and stuff from like the Bud Game magazines, like nothing you could do anything with. But I always like, even before I played, I was be 8, 9, 10 years old, and like going in there and looking at it all was
oh no, I mean, back then that stuff was mesmerizing. And I remember one other time we were playing football or something like that in this apartment complex that we grew up. And I'll never forget, one of my friends just started bolting out the door, and his brother was chasing him with a pump gun. And I'm pretty sure he shot him with a green marbleizer right in the back. And I was like, what is this? And then they walked off and played paintball in the woods. Anyways, so kind of how I got into the whole thing, I'll tell you kind of my origin story. Back in the day, Blockbuster, right? We all love Blockbuster. I mean, there was nothing more fun than a Friday night going to the grocery store, the Blockbuster next door, and, searching to see what was there. And I was spending the night with my friend at the time, and his dad was going to Blockbuster, and we were in the magazine section of the grocery store. And lo and behold, we come across an APG, and we were mesmerized by this magazine. So we grabbed the APG, we go home that night, and dude, like, I can't remember if we watched the movie or not, but we're up all night. We're looking through the APG. We're looking at the VM68s. We're looking at, just like all the camo, just, I don't know, some of the coolest advertisements in paintball. Yeah. Just that stuff was just iconic.
Man, there was a point in time where I remember having probably like 6 different magazine subscriptions all coming to me when I was a kid. Before, I just, any bit of paintball content I could get, I would. Newsstands used to be able to look at those magazines.
That was a special experience, going into a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, quick little tidbit that could blow people's minds, because Blockbuster for us was our childhood, but people didn't realize how different it was when you didn't have instant access to everything, right? Yeah. So it was a treat to go in. Like, you might be excited to watch a movie that they hit the stores sometimes like a year after they were in the theater, and all that other time was like downtime. You go into the store, so excited to get this movie, and it would be just rented out. They didn't have enough copies.
Yeah. Or it was like hidden behind another one or something silly.
Yeah. Or in the wrong place. The movie was in the completely wrong place.
And I don't know if either of you guys remember this, but they also used to like rent like video game systems.
Yeah.
And it was like
fire systems. I can't remember. Yeah. I remember games for sure, but
so like before, like I would get like a new system and stuff because it wasn't all on demand then. I remember like going and like planning like a a sleepover with my friends, and we would just rent a system for like 3 days and like not sleep and just eat 30 pizzas and just have a great time.
A LAN party.
This was before LAN parties, For me, this was like Sega
jacked up on Surge.
For sure. Maybe some Josta. I think it was the first drink with guarana in it. All the energy drinks have now, but it had like this little like panther on it.
I always drank.
Remember that one.
I always drank balls.
I bet you did.
You set yourself up for that one, dude. He got you.
And you know what? We'll clip it. Because
but shout out to Balls, also a paintball sponsor for quite a few years. And
that's true. Yeah,
I used to play behind the Balls cans on the old MPPL fields.
And those were wild.
Yeah, they were just like
the balls cooler.
Yeah. They were trying to sling that stuff more than you could imagine.
Dude, when I went down to Brazil, I was 15 when I went to Brazil, and guarana is all in all their drinks, and I was just like, all of this. I was like, give me this, give me that. I drank my first espresso down there. Like, it was like, dude, I was in heaven down there.
So real quick, not to get off tangent, but my wife is Brazilian, so we're very familiar with Brazil, and that's an amazing country. If you guys, obviously how you've been there, Ryan, I'm not sure if you've.
No, I've done some South America, Colombia, Venezuela, but I've never got down to Brazil, and it just hasn't lined up right. It's not because I don't want to go. I definitely love South America and Central America as countries. I think the culture and the laid back vibe of them and like the spirit that the people have is cool in all of them.
Well, Tim and Chad and everybody, they had a great time there. But I just want to tell you guys a side story.
That's because Tim likes big booty girls, perfect place for him.
Who doesn't? But anyways.
Well, I want to tell you a quick side story on that guarana. It's a hard word to pronounce, but
it is. It's weird.
My uncle worked for the Coca-Cola company, and he was actually he was pretty high up in Coca-Cola, rest in peace. But he was sent over there to kind of work on developing that whole market. And what they were happening was that stuff was so strong that when they would run it through the fountain machines, everything would end up tasting like guarana, right? So basically, lo and behold, they had to figure, guarana. My wife's in the background.
Oh,
I was gonna say, I feel like we're all just going off my completely random white person guess. That I've been using for my whole life.
Guarana, but it was so strong that it would affect the taste of everything. So they had to find that they'd have to have special linings for those specific drinks. Anyways, just a kind of a interesting side story, but
that's cool. Yeah, so I got one last interesting tidbit about Blockbusters, but when me, Tim, Sam, Chad, a bunch of us went up to Alaska in the winter, it was like negative 50 degrees average the week we were there. It was cool. Got to see the Northern Lights and stuff, but not knowing it at the time, but there was still a Blockbuster there, right?
It was the last Blockbuster.
It was the second to last one, I believe.
No way.
But we were at that maybe 6 to 8 months before it closed down forever.
Wow.
And it was like a month after that, the last one closed down. There's a documentary about that on somewhere too, but that was somewhere in like Idaho maybe or something.
Dude, Ryan, you're giving me all these little random thoughts. And I'm gonna tie this back into paintball with Blockbuster. For sure. Like the first week I came out to Philly to spend at the team house, I think they had just gotten the house, and I think it was just like Tim and J-Tro and like maybe Fatty. I take that back. I don't think Fatty was there yet. And I had to do a film class project. Tim and I went to a Blockbuster. I had to rent a Nosferatu vampire movie, like black and white, and like write a thing on it. But anyways, that was a side story. But
I love it. Side stories are good. People hear the standard stuff all the time. When I listen to podcasts, I enjoy hearing people converse and know each other, because it kills time, and it allows you to like get insight into people that you wouldn't have had before.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah.
Experiences.
Well, and that.
Oh, go ahead, Hal. No, go ahead.
No, and that's what I've ended up. Ryan and I were talking about it. What I've loved so much about this podcast that we've started. We ask questions, but we get into such great stories that are never told, because we don't have like a script, or we're unfiltered, and it's
not just that. It's like you don't remember these things. It's not your life is composed of so much stuff that unless you have something that sparks the memory, sometimes it just doesn't get spoken about.
Probably talking with you guys in this conversation right now, there's going to be a bunch of thoughts that come back. Yeah. But the reason that I mentioned that as being important is because that was a great time that I got a chance to really get to meet Tim as well. Not really meet Tim, but also, I had met Tim previously at the tryouts, but to get to know Tim better, and in that time, I remember finding his passion for watching trauma head sports. And, Tim was also a student of the game. Tim knew, just like all of us, what they wore, what they shoot, and I want to segue that into today. You don't see as much as that anymore. It was, and I need to give a quick shout out to Mikey, who plays on the Gunners, very talented player. He's coming up from the X Factor camp. He had come to our booth, and you could hear him talking about, yeah, Tom, I saw this guy shooting this, and this guy was wearing this. And it was cool for me to hear that, because you don't hear that anymore.
It's a rarity nowadays.
Yeah.
Then I felt like it was everyone that really loved it was like that, right? But I think that was just a consequence to the times too, because right now, like I said, it goes back to that instant gratification. Right now, people can go on and see paintball that happened that happened a week ago, that happened the last tournament. People are practicing for it. First person views through meta glasses. They're getting mic'd up things. So they're watching paintball in these like 30-second clips, 15-second clips, where we were scanning through magazines, rereading an article 100 times, watching the only video that we could see of it.
When you had to live off a PGI for a month until the next one. You knew all the players. Yeah, no, 100%, man.
It's like the difference of like, sitting down and watching a movie versus just someone giving you a quick like cliff notes of it.
Sure.
And I think right now people just get that, which I think, the cyclical nature of, reality, I think that will come into play again. I think people will get tired of the constant connectivity and things like that. And you already see long form, media coming back in the form of podcasts, because it's a new medium as far as like within the last decade it's really grown. But also you see really artists making films again, between Dan Napoli, Brad Mon, you're having people who were kids when we started playing, grew up in the game, now owning their own companies. You see Alex Frage put back into it so much with, media with the Great American Paintball magazine, which is, I have a subscription to. I don't look at it the same way I did when I was a kid, but it's really cool to have. I still get excited when I get in the mail. I still get excited looking through it. So I think some of that will come back, but it's also, things are destined to change.
Yeah. Well, I'll segue back into kind of, so we can go off on any tangents. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How did you have something you want to say? Because I know you gave me the floor for a minute. Okay.
No, you're good.
All right, so let me go back into this. So we got that magazine. We stayed up all night, just like, hey, we've got to go play. So luckily, his dad was like, hey, we're gonna go play the next weekend. So we set that up. We ended up going to Paintball Atlanta's indoor field, which, I'm 11 years old at the time. We walk into this very tiny indoor. The reek of RP shearer paint. It's cold. Just like, I'll never forget that smell and that feeling. And at the time, because this is a very small indoor, in most places, sometimes you're not allowed to go crush anybody, right? So I remember this guy, he was the best player out there, and he had like a Spider Compact vertical tank. And lo and behold, I think the first game I'm out there, my friend and I were in the back base, and this dude comes by and crushes us basically. Dude shot me like once in the back, once in the spine, and somewhere, I can't remember, maybe the third shot was on my back. And I was just like, dude, I'm walking off the field. I'm 11 years old, and like I almost have tears in my eyes. I'm like, dude, I was like, I don't know if I can play this. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Well, I walk up to where they had this little staging area, and Lane Wright's brother, Todd Wright, was there refereeing us. And I'm very thankful to him because he kind of coached me. He said, all right, let's get you back out there. He kind of calmed me down, got my head back in the game. And I went out the next game and I gogged somebody from across the field. And that was all.
That first time shooting someone where you can see it connect is just, you can't get that feeling back. You can't pay for that feeling.
Right. And so that was it. And then, from there on, it was just pure obsession. It was, running off the bus to get the APG magazine, memorizing everything. Right. I did this weird, silly thing, and people probably find this silly, and some of my friends growing up, but I remember that I would say, hey, point to a page of the magazine, flash it to me real quick. I'll tell you what splash it was, what anodized, who made the part.
Wow.
This is just, this is just the level of obsession. And, you have to have that level of obsession.
Love.
Go ahead, Hal.
No, love. It's for the love of the game.
Dude, it's just, I love the game. I loved everything about it. I love the gear. I love the guns. I love the paint. I love the advertisements. So anyways, I became the kid that hung around the store, right? And I'm in there in Paintball Atlanta, and I'm very thankful to at least have role models. I'm thankful to have been in not a Mecca area, but at least a decent area that I could look up to. And
talent came out of that area. You had legitimate teams that were playing. That helps being around that. Regardless, you don't have to look up to people and emulate after them, but you have to have that around to see what's possible and to have something to want to be better than.
100%. And that's what it was, Ryan. I would go into Paintball Atlanta. I would see magazine pictures of some of the Team Extreme guys who, Extreme had a very, very good career. And I would go in there, and of course, whether it be Jason Green or
Jay Green's a legend in my book, man. The Barefoot Bandit, he was getting sneaky on the field, but off the field he was a little terror.
So many very cool stories, and kind of growing up and all that. And I remember the first time that I want to segue this into smart parts. I remember the first time that, of course, I looked up to Todd Wright after that a lot, and he played for 2 Extreme at the time. But I remember he had Lane Wright, who had gone on to All-Americans at that point, one of his splashed auto mags, red, white, and blue. And that became just my
magic box, the Armstrong rail, everything splashed to the T. Yeah.
Yep. Had, the Shark Gill sight rail, had the little kind of curvature one, not the gadget grip, which, I wasn't a big gadget grip fan, but,
Well, you lost them as soon as you used them.
Yeah, true.
You shot those things right out like little missiles.
So anyways, well, you may or may not know about some of this, but, they had all these very cool splash kits, right? And this was on an auto mag. And back in the day, it was either auto mag or autococker.
Yep.
And so anyways, I fell in love with that. But so that's where I really probably would say that I fell in love with the All-Americans. starting to look at the splash kits and kind of all the Renegade camo and all that cool stuff. And you know what, Ryan, it sounds silly, but I had dreams of playing for the All-Americans. Yeah. That was the team that I wanted to play for. Wow. And I give a lot of credit to my father. My father sits, sorry. Yeah, my sorry.
You're good, brother. All good.
Wasn't expecting this to happen.
No, life was.
Anyways, sorry about that, guys. Hold on.
No, you're good.
No
man.
apologies needed, brother. Take your
emotions are real. You know, we've all been through a lot, and you can never pick and choose when you get the feels.
No.
Yeah, that one hit me.
Yeah.
Anyways, let me regroup here. I owe a lot of credit to my dad because I remember I had wanted a lot of the Smart Parts stuff. Excuse me. I had wanted a lot of the Smart Parts stuff, and one Christmas, thank God, my dad called Smart Parts. I don't know who he talked to at the time, but he ended up going with from head to toe, all the Renegade, the pack, the remote system, splash kit for my Automag at the time, dude, and just
what was your first Renegade pattern?
Real tree.
Yeah, classic. Classic.
But I want to back up to that real quick because my first gun was actually an Automag, but that may sound crazy, but I actually worked an entire summer mowing lawns to get that Automag, and I couldn't afford a power feed or anything like that, nothing fancy. It was a side feed with a bottle mounted vertical on the back regulator. And anyway, so that was my first paintball gun.
Yeah.
And anyway, so yeah, I owe a lot of credit to my father segueing into Smart Parts because he had, that one Christmas, he had gone through the entire catalog and
that's so
head to toe Renegade, goggle flops, the entire deal. I got the red, white, and blue splash kit, which I fell in love with. And that really solidified, my love for the All-Americans, and of course I had a lot of respect for all the other teams. And I was a fan of paintball in general. And so anyways, let's see. I want to kind of speed you guys up. So
before we forget, we did reintroduce goggle flash. So just let me know which one you'd like, and I'll bring it to you to ICC. Because I know you want to rock it. I'm going to be rocking it again.
100%, dude. 100%. Yeah, dude. I still rock one that kind of I guess some of the Fight Club guys have brought back. But God, I wish I still had some of that stuff. Now I also rock the V-neck. I rocked the V-neck Renegade. I was a fan of the V-neck, Ryan. Yeah. I never liked the collar.
See, I was always collar then, but I was crazy because the V-neck was so much better. I get choked when I have tight things around my neck now. Like even like jerseys now, I'll tear them a lot of times, things like that. And someone had gifted me, I forget which pattern it is now, but it was like a European style one. It had like a twister on it with like mauve.
Oh yeah. It was it was the kind of like maroonish green.
And I just forget what it was called. Maybe Typhoon or something. I don't remember. But I have one of those that someone just given me last year, and I was wearing it at the last ICC, and I was like, man, the V-neck's nice. I went all out.
The cool thing about that is back in the day, there was all that stuff that you would see the Europeans have, whether it be the JT style or the Renegade camo, you couldn't really get, right? Yeah. So I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And it was weird to me because like I remembered this one from when I was a kid and not liking it, It's weird how your preferences change, like because I don't think it was cool, but like now this many years later, I see it again. I was like, this is actually cool. Like I don't know why I didn't like it before, because back then I was all, Timber Ghost. That was my jam. I was a Timber Ghost boy through and through.
I love the Real Tree because it was all Americans, but I mean, who didn't love Timber Ghost because of Lockout and
and it just looked
even Strange would wear it. There were a lot of teams, but so started playing a lot at Paintball Atlanta, and we talk about that hunger for the game. Like I can remember reffing Wednesday and Fridays and Saturdays to have just enough paint to be able to play Sunday. And whatever it took, cleaning paint, whatever we had to do.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate too that Paintball Atlanta had a indoor field with a mini outdoor, but also they had a woods ball field, very massive. So I'm very thankful for that very fast paced, tight quarters indoor field, because I really feel like that got a lot of us young kids that very fast, snappy, just kind of like very quick awareness. And then, of course, you need to go play out in the woods, and you need to have some of that, hey, like, I'm going to hide behind this rock pile for 8 minutes to win on one kill, and then the game folds, So
I think That's really interesting you say that, because I think your play style, at least for the time, I didn't really ever know you as a amateur player. I really got to know you on Philly, but I always thought your play style would have fit even better in the game today, because you had a nice mix of aggression, but controlled aggression. You were a pretty smart player, and you pick and chose your times, you chose your battles. You were more methodically aggressive. Where back then, I think like just pure aggression was rewarded a lot and at least appreciated more. And then there was like people fit into like different roles, where I always thought you were like a great utility player, because you could play any spot on the field, any like front, mid, or back, and be successful in it, which is what the game is now. But you saying that, paintball and being like that, you had all three of those, right? You had to be up in it. You had to have good gun skills. You had to be able to battle when you're playing indoors at close ranges. And I don't know about you guys, but like we played at a lot of indoor fields back then too, because there used to be ones in like strip malls and top of like above Halloween stores. There was like 11 indoors around us when I was growing up.
Well,
so,
you guys had to have indoors.
yeah, and so we're playing in these, and like sometimes on top of like plywood, sometimes on top of sawdust. Like this is the worst ground, sometimes pure cement, but we're playing 300 feet per second still on fields that were sometimes 40 feet long. Like they were small.
That's the crazy thing, is I always hear all these fields. I mean, of course, it's probably different, but dude, we always shot. We were 290. We were 290, 300. And so
305, anywhere between 295 and 305. People probably weren't going to get down then. Like if I walked on at 305, chances were all the other old dudes on my team were probably shooting 330.
Right.
I still remember Snack like every practice.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
You get shot by him, and you're like, dude, I know you're happy you shot me, but just chrono. And it'd be 328. And his first thing was, well, I didn't even chrono it since last weekend. I went, yeah, you were shooting hot too then. You were still shooting hot then.
I can completely hear it.
But but learning how to have good gun skills in those small arenas, but then also having that giant woods field where you had like legitimate teams playing out of, you had to learn how to put moves together collectively, how to be sneaky, how to tree walk things, how to crawl and make moves.
I mean, it's, and of course you tell it to all the young players now, but they don't quite make the connection. And it's like, dude, look at any of the top players today. They all started that way. They've all played that. Even trying to get some of the guys to play the mech stuff, I'm just like, the ones who have gotten it, like, I think of somebody like an Aaron Rios, Elliot, some of these other guys, and they get it, and those skills translate, right? It's like, well, look, you can run to a corner 20 times in a row, but what are you going to do behind this tree for 8 minutes? How are you going to crawl? There's how it is, right? So
I honestly put a lot of the growth on younger players to the resurgence of 10-man, because like you said, I don't think it's used by enough players. But the players that do are completely successful. And you look at even like kids from like the Wrecking Crew, like Colton Dahl and stuff, like they're better X-Ball players now than they would have been had they just always, let that go. Because too many times when people are just playing tournament paintball and just practicing event, practice event, never, for one, you never give your mind that mental break of just the pure unadulterated fun that we got into the sport for. But outside of that, you're just working on all the minutia, but at a macro scale. So if you do something at a macro scale enough, your individual skills are getting better, but it doesn't really necessarily fix your timing, your mentality, your field vision, your view of the game.
Sure.
And what I see kids struggling with now more than ever, where is stepping up in big moments, right? Because you don't have the cushion of practicing 150 points on it, and it doesn't matter if you messed up. You get to go back out and play 149 points before you play the tournament. Sure. You see people falter in these big moments because that's all that matters, right? And you have to make the right decision at the right time in these small, like tangible moments.
Well, yeah, not only exactly what you just said, but also you only get one shot at these. You don't get a redo. It's like, But so back to that. Very fortunate to be able to come up through paintball land and some of those guys. And I want to say that one of my goals was to play for 2 Extreme, and I remember I got asked to my first 3-man, and it was just an amazing time. And I wanted to be around all those guys, and I grew up with a lot of guys that I think if we had kept playing, and probably everybody says this, but we were. We could have been, one of these great teams as well, and I'm sure you guys have in your paintball careers seen a lot of talent that could have been something great, you know, and whatever it is, whether it's something in life or a hardship or drugs or different things, you know, that something got the best of them, right? But
it's just, you know, you have to prioritize your life and you have to make the decisions that are best for you. And you know, sometimes the sacrifice of giving it up is what makes someone successful. And sometimes it's the sacrifice of giving something else up to stay in it. But it's all, you know, life's just a collection of choices.
True.
That's it.
Yeah, and I'm more so talking like when we were a lot younger in this time frame. But yes, no, and that's still a decision that a lot of people are faced with even right now.
Even then, like when you're a kid, like, you know, as soon as I started playing paintball, I assume it's the same for you. I know, you know, you've always been athletic. You played other sports. It's like, well, I'm playing paintball now. I'm traveling for paintball. Now I can't run track. I can't play football. I can't play soccer. Like, you're making those decisions as a kid too. You're deciding what to put your time and energy in.
100%. Yeah, and I was good at other sports. I was good at baseball. I'd actually tried out for football, but
you look like you'd be good at baseball.
I was pretty good at baseball. I was a good shortstop. I appreciate that. But dude, yeah, once it was paintball, man, and like, you know, it was not only the game itself. I mean, come on, it's, you know, the best game, you know, it's the most challenging, it's the most fun. But I also think too, like, I loved hanging out with the older guys. I loved hearing all those stories. You know, I loved, you know, the camaraderie. I loved hanging out with my friends. And you know what it was too, like, where all my friends were just hanging out with friends in high school. I knew guys all around the state of Georgia. I knew guys from 20 high schools, and it was just,
three different generations from 20 high schools from every state. And
dude,
that breadth of knowledge is just it just changes who you are, because every person you interact with is like, you know, you're taking bits and pieces of that. And I definitely, you know, saw myself like growing apart from some high school friends and growing towards other people, but it was like being able to learn, for, like you said, good and bad from
very
people
true.
of different age groups. And it, you know, it just, I don't know what it'd be like without that.
Yeah, and that was on and I say that in a small scale, and I tell this to my wife all the time, you know, knowing the people that we know in paintball, and you'll hear people say, it's very cliche now. Yeah, if you go to any country, you know somebody there at this point. If you go to a state, how you probably know a guy from paintball of some way, shape, or form. So it's, you know, you just kind of, you know, you grow your network. But kind of going back to that time frame, you know, I started playing a lot. I wanted to get in on to extreme. I ended up getting, I remember the time that David Wood, my coach at the time, asked me to come try out for 2 Extreme. We were playing open group at the time, and I was running amok. I mean, I think I shot like 10, 12 people one game, just running out there crazy. And he was like, hey, we want you to come out. And I was like, well, thank goodness you finally asked me to come out. And so I went out there and, you know, did the best I could. And, you know, I ended up making we were the kids team. And, you know, very traditional story. We would get our ass beat every weekend by Extreme, the older guys. And, you know, that's fine. It's a time old tale. Like, you know, beat us down. All right. And guess what? We won a game. We won this. Then our mentality and all that kind of stuff. And so anyways, I was very loyal to Extreme and that whole
Before you go on, I think you said something that I'd like to touch on, because I think it's really important, is like when you said, oh, thanks for finally noticing me. I think there's like a breadth of cockiness and confidence that is the key element to anyone who is, like, you know, skyrocketed up through the ranks and made a name for themselves fast. It's the, you know, it's the ability to full-heartedly believe in yourself before anyone else does, sometimes foolishly, but knowing what your potential is. And like, and sometimes that is looked at as a negative. I know it was, you know, when I first got on the Ollies too, there were some people that didn't appreciate it. It's like, who's this cocky kid? It's something you hear a lot. But if you can balance that, and you don't want to be cocky to the point where, you know, people don't want to be around you, or that you're unreasonable and you don't see the reality when you're playing poorly and you're just rude or above people. But you do need the cockiness to at least believe that you can be the best that's ever done this, or else you'll never like reach your potential in it.
100%. Well, you're right. Go ahead, Al.
No. I was just gonna say, Ryan knows my previous. We'll talk about it afterwards. But like, above the door, before we walked out, it was kill your ego at the door. You can still have confidence and be cocky, but not having an ego that carries it beyond that, I think, is what really differentiates people. Because if you don't kill your ego and you have all 3 of those things, then it's just a bad mixture and you're so self-absorbed. Like,
it could be, but it's also just how you are putting it off, right? Like, because what you're putting out there is a reflection of what you are, but it's not the full story of it. It's what you're allowing people to see. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I more so mean in that particular time, like you're right. You have to have a little bit of enthusiasm and swagger and confidence. But you're right. Like if it's to the point where nobody wants to be around you, or all those things, it doesn't work, right? But I was just a young, hungry kid, and dude, I love just being around all the guys and hanging out, and I got my opportunity to play for them, and it was an amazing time. And so, kind of fast forward that you guys, I had the opportunity to, man, God, what a time, like Mardi Gras tournaments and MSPAs. Ryan, in the South, we had the Mid-South Paintball Association. And dude, it was, I think we got you got a trophy if you won. I think the entry fee was maybe $200 at the time. It was bring your own paint.
The best.
It was, dude, it was, man. But the competition was like, dude, the competition. You had Saberwolves there. You had all the pro players like Rocky Cagnoni and all the guys that would hop on. Dude, like, I mean, you had Steve Hammond from the All-Americans, all these different guys. But yeah, it was very competitive.
Pretty much getting everyone from Florida to the Carolinas,
Alabama,
Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, like all that area converging. And that was the mecca of paintball back then, in my opinion.
I do
Southern
have to,
California even coming in second,
I do have to ask, what part of Georgia are you from? My blessing of a wife is from Valdosta.
Oh, no, that's too funny you say that. So we're about like an hour and a half away from Valdosta.
No way.
Ironically, how I actually went to Valdosta for 2 years. Valdosta, and I got to tell this story. It interrelates to Philly. So let's pause that. We'll add it back. But yes, my wife is actually an assistant professor at Valdosta State University.
No way.
So,
okay.
So anyways, no, but I'm from North Georgia, but we live here in South Georgia now. Dude, we love it, man. It's quiet, it's relaxing, like we pull up to a traffic light. What the hell's going on here? There's not a lot of traffic, but anyways.
Getting out of the hustle and bustle of life is something I didn't know how much I'd appreciate as I grew older. But like I could totally just be a recluse into like the woods with friends and family, have like a little commune somewhere in like Costa Rica and be
100%. And now, if we were at different stages in our life, that might be a different story for sure. But we've enjoyed it. But I do want to touch on that point with Valdosta because that's an interesting story. But so you guys, I got to travel Mid-South Paintball Association. We played the Mardi Gras tournaments. We play all these, different tournaments and whatnot. And I'll just kind of speed this up real quick. But at one point, Ryan, I had realized I had started to see a lot of people that I knew. I got to come up under Eric Dearman as well. And, I'll pay Eric a lot of credit. Eric was a great inspiration, a great role model, a great level to chase. Eric was extremely talented. Eric was extremely driven. I mean, he became, the MVP of the league for 2 years in a row. And I don't care what anybody say. Eric trademarked that fast, snappy style of play. Nobody was doing any of that. Nobody was taking the shots to that guy at the speed that guy was taking with the accuracy.
And his fingers never even stopped. If you watch, they would just slide away from his trigger. And he just be joking around.
Dude, he won a lot of Top Guns. He won a lot of one-on-one contests. He won a lot of rate of fire contests.
Oh, yeah.
I owe a lot of credit to Eric. Eric, I clashed with Eric at times, but I had a lot of great times with Eric, and I have a lot of great memories with Eric. But
I think a lot of that, too, is like, it's so easy to have that kind of rivalry with someone from your area that's like also in the same age group that's trying to do the same things. They're both talented. When I saw you guys butting head, like a lot of that's because you're so similar. It's so very different in a lot of ways, but
very, very true. And that's why I pay a lot of credit to Eric because a lot of my style, a lot of things that I learned were through Eric. And I wanted to play that style. And also I think we all wanted to play that particular style. And 100, without a doubt.
Oh, he was Hollywood. It was like, you had your first superstars that were kind of and stuff, but he came like nothing could have been better for him than when X-Ball came about because he was a good 10-man player on the All-Americans. But when X-Ball came out and he could be like a superstar, he took full advantage of that and loved every second of it.
Completely agree. So there was this point where I realized that I was like, you know what? I had seen so many of my friends and so many people that I knew go to play it. Well, let me back up. I graduated high school in 2003, and which is crazy. And
Me too.
Right. So graduated in 03, and I remember that was the first year that I think X-Ball started.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up going down to Valdosta State House, and but I still kept up with the paintball that whole year. I've always kept up with paintball, even when I've kind of stepped away from the game. And so I kept up with paintball, got to see all the X-Ball stuff happen. Of course, Team Extreme had kept playing, and I did a year at Valdosta State. Well, Extreme had realized that they were going to go play X-Ball, and I think I came back one weekend, 4-hour drive, 4.5-hour drive. I drove back. And they were practicing, so I decided to go out there and practice. And I went out there, and I still played very well. I went out there just not having played in a long time, went out there, picked up the gun, and just, naturally, just, all that ability, just go out there and play and have a great time. And I remember Joe Fortin, the captain of Extreme, as I'm in the parking lot kind of getting ready to come home, he said, "What are you doing next weekend?" And I said, "No, I don't have any plans." He said, "Do you want to go to California?" I said, "Joe, I'd love to go." I said, I don't have any gear. I don't have any money. I don't have any of that, And he's like, "I got you." I said, I'll take care of you. I owe a lot of people credit as well. My first coach, Dave Wood, Joe Fortin, for really, believing me and seeing, that, giving me the opportunity to play. And so lo and behold, I went out to California that next week, and man, God, we had an absolute ball. It's so funny. I'll have to share with you guys. I remember Warpig. I got a picture on Warpig, and dude, I had brand new dye stuff off the rack, probably still had a tag. I didn't have headgear. I was so ghetto in my style. It's so funny because at the end of that year, you could see that I kind of, I had a little bit of swagger, a little bit of style and whatever, but
I'll give you a pass for that since none of it was yours.
Dude, it was bad. Yeah, I remember we played Tipman Effect and all these teams, and yeah, we still played very well, but it was a good learning experience. So we had an absolute great time with Extreme that year playing X-Ball, and I think we ended up taking third at World Cup, and that was a tough one, but we ended up taking third. Lo and behold, Ryan, after that, I realized, I was like, you know what? I put enough time into this game. I have to see if I can go play at that level. I have to.
Good for you.
I did. And it was at that time where I was like, you know what? I've got to see if I can do this.
And that was on your vision board since you were a little kid, first looking at the magazines. It'd
Right.
be a disservice not to try.
The hardest thing is, it's your dream, and the people that refuse to take the leap of faith to see it through. And that's when people do that, it's the greatest stories of your life. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I'm anytime I hear that anybody does that, it makes me so happy, because I know you, Ryan, so many people, me, I've taken leaps of faith, and you have no idea how it's going to end, but at least you took a chance.
For sure. Didn't know how, but I knew that we had to some way, somehow, right?
Love that.
And to segue back to the All-American was a different thing now at this time. All-Americans had become Philly, which I still loved. And so, so you're right that I had dreams of that, but yes, it kind of segued into something different because of the X-Ball. And so you guys, and Ryan, this will segue into you and that jersey that you have on the back wall. My plan at the time was I wanted to show up and show out. And that was my goal. I didn't necessarily want to get on a team by who I knew. I didn't really know a ton of people, right? I knew the people within my camp, right? And my plan at the time, Ryan, was to find out when Miami Effect was going to have a practice.
Oh, we could have used you, man.
What's that?
We could have used you.
I probably would have got a lot more playing time in the early time, right?
For sure. I mean, we had a lot of good players. If we weren't playing some of the ones that weren't good, we would have done pretty well. But
oh, well, dude, you guys were cool, man. You guys had your style, of course, Ryan. You had your long kind of bleached hair, and you guys, you had Tholey Aaron Tholey with the
just scribed into the side of his gun.
Well, Jason played with you guys too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys had
Lucian who won a World Cup with Trauma not too long after that.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Ziggy was still on Philly until 04.
True. So by this time, I had realized, hey, look, I need to try and make this happen. And of course, having Jason Green at the field, who was on Philly, right, getting to see him and kind of hear all those stories and the different stuff, and of course, now Eric was on the team at that time. And so anyways, the plan was to show up through Jason. I asked when Miami was going to have a practice, because I think at the time, no knock on you guys, Ryan, but I think you guys were last place at the time.
Well, for sure. Because, for one, you could only place at the last event. So other than that, we were just playing 5 games an event, pre-scheduled. So it's like you could win all 5 and nothing changed, until except for your seeding going into the World Cup. And yeah, we didn't do well, but like, man, that I played with them for a year before I was traded to Philly, a year and a half. When we had games like against Strange, we had a game where we lost 18-17. Wow. So yes, like we weren't winning, but like we were very competitive with good teams a lot of the times. And I think people don't understand that now, because you can look back and you can make fun of like how the Ultimates did and how that. But I was like, man, no, but I'm saying people could by just looking at a record. Yeah. But it's not like it is now. Like all these teams would have won a ton of games nowadays because it's a 15-minute game where it could be 3-2. Like anything happened. I remember being on Miami Effect. We were playing Philly in the 2004 World Cup, and our line won 10 straight points.
Wow.
And we lost 11-10.
It's crazy to hear all those points now, right? Like,
but there was some. I would say, even the coaches would agree that there was probably some bad coaching if you had one line win all 10 of their points, and you lose a game 11-10. But it happened, and that's like that. Those are the things that records don't show you. That's why I always say stats can be skewed any way you want, but like knowing and seeing and feeling and doing is
So the plan was to find out when Miami was going to try or practice and just show up and see if we could play. And that was really the goal. Well, we had, started practicing a little bit, getting ready for that. And I guess Jay Green, ironically, had maybe said, hey, I don't know for sure, but maybe Jason had told Spesh or whoever, said, hey, look, I got, this guy at the field, you guys should give him a look, right? I know that they were going to have a tryout at the end of World Cup. They had just won. And of course, Philly's the 2-time World Championship team. And I'll never forget, I'm at Valdosta State, Hal, and I'm sitting in the cafeteria, and I get this call. Of course, I screen it. I had no idea who it was. I listened to the message, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, Gant, this is Spesh Robbins from the Philadelphia Americans. Interested in having you come out and, letting you come out to the tryout, getting you involved in the program, this and that. And, dude, I was just like, you guys, I was on cloud 9. I was just like, this is, I called my mom. I was just like, this is the absolute, this is just, this
I mean,
is
that's getting called from the best team in the world. And there's like irrefutably, right? Because they were the only pro team that had won in 2 years, right? We could only win an event a year, and they won back to back. And the game was played.
I'm Division II at the time, right? I'm Division II, and I guess lo and behold, it's funny. I'd gone back and looked at pictures, and I'm looking on the sideline, and actually I could see that some of them were watching the games. Of course, they would come over and watch like Tito and some of the other guys that were on the team. But so anyways, I got that call. I asked him if one of my good friends could come out with me, and so
this was going to the tryouts in Fort Myers,
correct?
Into the 2005 season.
Yep. And so going to the tryouts in Fort Myers, trying out for Philly, 2-time World Championship team. And I think how the schedule worked is we flew out like a day or two. We flew out at least 2 or 3 days early. Mm-hmm. And shoot, I think there were 2 or 3 skids there too, just ungodly there, and
just so unlimited. Like to Gant's point, there was times we used to practice and stuff, and like some of the older guys that they want to play would be like throwing paint into the bushes, and we're all the kids are like, whoa, give that to us.
So hold on, you guys. I missed a crucial part of the story. I need to back up just a tad.
Yeah, go for it.
When I got the call from Spesh, I don't know how far away it was. It was very close at the end of the year, but they weren't going to start playing till I can't remember what the time frame was. I whatever it was, you guys, I had 10 weekends. So I'm in Valdosta at the time. The paintball field that I know is in Paintball Atlanta, 4.5 hours away. I drove every weekend for those 10 weekends to go out there and play Saturday and Sunday. We scrounged paint as best we could, whatever it was. And we drilled. We played my friend Aaron and I, we played one-on-ones. We did snap shooting. And I'll also tell you another thing. I couldn't shoot left-handed like I needed to be able to shoot left-handed at the pro. I was getting away with what I could get away with. Yeah. And how we actually figured out how to shoot left-handed was we would do drills where it was like the gun could not leave your left hand the entire game.
Yeah, even though you're cross-handed, left-handed, doing all that.
However awkward it was for you for the first weekends we did it, your gun could not leave your left hand. And I'm telling you, that worked. And it was so funny because, we drove. I drove back and forth. I had to be back home for certain things. But, we played 10 weekends in a row. one-on-ones, snap shooting, Dynasty Dissected, jousting, and all that stuff had come out. And
yeah, you were doing more than just playing, right? Because like sometimes I think nowadays people will just go and be like, "Well, I played all this. I should be getting better." But it's how you do things. It's doing it the right way.
To be honest with you, Ryan, I don't think we played at all against anybody else other than just one-on-ones and snap shooting drills.
Well, that's fine, but I'm saying
that's all we
snap
could.
shooting. Don't cheat the snapshot. Don't go slow so you hit the target every time. Like actually, snap shoot against someone. Play the one-on-ones.
Oh yeah, dude.
At full intensity. Don't just go through the motions, because if I'm doing something half speed, that'll translate over, and all that playing could have actually made me worse.
Dude, it's such a valid point, and I've talked with a few players recently about that. It's like, dude, yeah, don't get me wrong, your fundamentals, your snap shooting all the targets, fantastic. Move on to the next step. The next step is playing one-on-ones, right? And dude, I hated playing one-on-ones, but I hated and loved them at the same time. I think it was just that love-hate that, if you just keep throwing yourself. I still hate playing on a one-on-one, and I don't really say hate, but nobody wants to go out there and potentially lose that game. Nobody. But at the same time, that's the fun of it, and that's what excites you, But anyways, so we played 10 weekends in a row, and our skills were sharpened. We got out to the tryout. We do those drills, and I remember, again, you guys, and it's easier to talk about it now, but man, at the time, I'm D2. I think I'm 18 years old, 2-time world championship team. The Garcia brothers are there from Oakland, Jason Trozen from Trauma, BJ from Strange, Pat, who had already played, Pat Roberts, who played with All-Americans, Chad Kugel from Brass Eagle, another guy from Oakland. Dang, I can't remember his name. His blonde hair. I don't know if you remember him, Ryan.
Was it Chris? Chris Wilson might have been there, or
wasn't it somebody else? He played for them. I can't remember.
Travis Dusick, who used to
it was somebody else. But so anyways, we go through all the Philly was
Paxson at that tryout? I know he'd come to the one the year before.
I don't think so.
But always any player who's anyone would have played for Philly at that time. I think.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I guess it was I'm sure it was invite only at that time, right?
Oh, yeah.
They picked who they want, and here I am, like, shit, man. I'm like, dude, I look at all these guys, So, anyways, I do remember that we went through doing those drills, those one-on-ones and those snap shooting. I won out all my one-on-ones. I won all my snap shooting. I lost one game to BJ, and BJ clipped my head, and I was like, damn. I was like, I wanted another shot at it, but I'm just so.
What a way for a D2 player to make a grand entrance, Dude,
you guys, it was awesome, and it just goes to show you that if you grind hard enough and all those things, had we not played 10 weekends in a row, driving 4 hours each way, and again, I'm sure many paintball players are hearing this story, they've done it, they know it, they're they know it, but that's what it takes, and I wasn't going to leave anything to chance. Put it that way. There was going to be no stone unturned, right?
Yeah, if you didn't make it, it was because of your own.
Yeah, 100%. Right? I can walk away from that. So we do that, and then Philly comes in, and we start mixing in with 3-on-3s. I think I played okay a couple of those, and anyways, Ryan, I don't know if you ever really knew the story and how this is interesting, but the the Saturday at the end of those drills. If you remember in Fort Myers, and of course you guys know with all the World Cups, those corners, by the time they've seen 100 points or whatever it is, they've got divots in them.
Dude, I slid into a bumper on that field before. I hit something on my knee, and I looked down, and there was some metal, and I started digging around. It was a bumper. It was, that was Poopy's field, but it was on top of a junkyard.
Yeah.
So, you'd find license plates. You'd find.
I bet. Well,
I still remember he had those giant cement poles for the net too. Do you remember they're 50 feet tall? Yep. I remember Mark Bolitnikoff at the leading into the 2003 year got mad about something. I watched him 2-hand barrel baseball swing his gun 100 yards into this concrete pole, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Dude, Mark, that is a funny dude. He and Spesh, that combo, that and all of them. But so I dove into the corner, I hit my knee, and did very bad that night. Swolled up. I'm like, dude, how am I going to play on this thing? So funny. We got into the car the next day. I've got Ben Gay all over it, whatever I can do. And I remember Daryl Trent dogged me. We got into the rental car, and he's like, who's got the Ben Gay on? And here we are, the rookies, right? And I'm just like,
Because people always look at it like, oh, he's sore, is your muscle a little sore? It's like,
yeah,
oh, man, I'm hiding an injury, like always.
Well, I'm not trying to show any weakness that I can.
Exactly.
You know, I'm on thin ice, I'm sure, right? And you know, of course. So, anyways, we play Aftershock that Sunday, and they let me get. I can't remember if it was the first spin that I got, but they let me get a spin, and I ran through the middle, and I think I shot 2 or 3 guys, and I thank God I had a great point. Thank God I was able to play on my knee. Well.
And for people that don't appreciate it, you know, the Aftershock All-American rivalry at that time was still as good as it got.
You know? For sure. Well, I remember that was my first time playing against Todd Adamson, and I was like, man, dude, this guy has got a hell of a shot. How does he do the things that he does, you know? And how does
he do it without looking down his barrel?
Dude, and how Todd Adamson, you know, shoots from the hip. He's squirrely. He makes moves, you know. It's just like, again, we'll go into more of this, but. So anyways, we go to dinner that night, and dude, I'm limping in, like I'm trying to be as strong as I absolutely can.
You guys at that wing place, that bar, wing place bar that they always went to that night?
Whatever bar it is. Dude, by the time they dropped me off, as soon as they dropped me off, I told my friend Aaron, I said, hey, I need a wheelchair. Literally got in a wheelchair. By the time that I get home, my jean pant leg is completely swollen and tight. My other one is loose. So I get home and I'm like, oh shit, thank God that the actual season or the first practice wasn't until like 2 or 3 months later. Something like that. I can't remember. You're probably more.
That was probably like a pre-Christmas practice down in Fort Myers.
Yeah, they did it
The practices were going to be late February.
So, dude, here I am like, okay, what are we going to do now? So I scheduled an MRI. I was very lucky to go to a good MRI doctor that had done a lot of the Atlanta Falcons and a lot of people. She was so excited to see a paintball player. It was really cool. Well, I got very lucky, and I didn't tear anything, but I had stretched one of my meniscus or whatever it was. So here I am. I'm like, okay, I don't remember how much time. I think I had a month and a half, 2 months, whatever it was. Dude,
I'm sure all you wanted to do was get on the field and keep playing and keep practicing. And now you're like, I got to take it easy. You know, I'm dealing with that now with my groin. It sucks. So, you know, I want to play, but you have to be smart. You have to heal yourself, or else, you know, this injury that's not so severe will turn into, you know, a debilitating problem.
For sure. So I had this amount of time. How am I going to recoup this? You know, I'm in my pool at the apartment complex that I live. I lived on the 3rd floor, so I had crutches, of course. Dude, my one calf was bigger, so I did everything that I could to slowly ease it in. But you guys, by the time the practice started, Spesh had called me to, I think, schedule flights. Dude, it was very difficult to do because I'm waiting for him just to tell me, well, you know, we don't really need you. I had to tell him, I said, look, Spesh, I said, look, I'm on crutches, man. I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play. And I'm very thankful for Spesh because, you know, my paintball career would not have gone in anywhere without Spesh Robinson. And Spesh told me, he said, you know what? I still want you to come out. I think I want you to still hang around the team. And I show up to practice on crutches. And dude, I remember like the Franks and, you know, some of these other guys are looking at me like, who's this kid? You know, like, I remember Adam was like, here, nobody, you know, they were the top dogs at the time, right? They were, you know, they didn't need to, right? And so anyways, I think I sat that whole practice out on crutches. And, you know, I remember Spesh telling me when I came out, he's like, well, look, I'm going to send you 2 gear bags and, you know, all the stuff. He's like, but if you don't make the team, you know, you're going to have to send it all back and this and that. But that was a very cool experience, Ryan, because two large Smart Parts gear bags showed up in my house with gun setups, tank shirts. Man, that was such a cool experience, you know. And
tell you, like you said, leading up to that nothing makes you feel more like part of the team and that you belong and being 100%. Included. Because I think, you know, even in, you know, football and stuff, sometimes they don't fly out all the players to these games and stuff. But to me, like, I don't care if I'm injured. Like, I want to be there. I want to still do whatever I can to help. I want to, you know, feel the energy and be part of it so that you don't feel like you're, you know, steps behind when you're coming back into it healthy.
Yeah. You know, and you'll probably agree with me on this, Ryan. Very thankful to Spesh for that because Spesh was very much like that in terms of, hey, let's go do something fun as a team. Let's go play mini golf or let's go, you know. He did a lot of that fun stuff.
Towards the end of his coaching, maybe a little too much, maybe a little like, it's raining outside. Let's go and do a team activity. We're like, well, we were going to play indoors. With our locker room that we have, like we're inside in a meeting now. But yes, like I bet if he could go to a Golden Corral, do that, like all that stuff, like I couldn't appreciate Spesh more for
100%. tying into this whole, gear and team thing, dude, we were very, very fortunate to play for one of the top, if not best funded team. I'm so grateful to Adam and everybody. And I want to talk about a little bit with that, just like giving us the opportunity to have that legitimate experience. And, we were probably one of the last generations to have that.
And we had contracts, when I went into school and told them I had to miss things, I had a contract, a professional sports contract that I could show them, had my payment, this, that, everything on it. Like that's legitimate. That made it easy for me to get out when it otherwise wouldn't have.
Did that remove you? I mean, so I'm curious because I was semi-pro bass fishing when I was in 8th grade, and I couldn't take payouts from tournaments when I won or placed high enough to get a paycheck. Like my dad had to get the paycheck because I also ran cross country and track, right? I had scholarships when I was graduating collegiately to UT, A&M, Texas Tech, Kansas University, Kansas State. Like I had these major contracts, but to be eligible as a high school athlete, I wasn't able to take money.
Yeah, I'm sure that would have taken our eligibility away had paintball not already taken all our time away.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I was like, you were already fully committed. You probably didn't play high school sports.
No, I couldn't.
But no. I was curious because, for me, I had to find a loophole into doing it. By the way, Gant, I have to ask you.
Yeah.
I've had 5 MRIs.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it's a me thing. I think it's a me thing. But
I know what you're probably gonna go into.
Have you ever fallen asleep during your MRIs?
No, but I mean, I know people get very claustrophobic, and dude, they're very adamant. You have to be perfectly still for this thing, and it takes I can't remember exactly, and maybe
it used to take like a full hour. I think.
Yeah, maybe the technology
is more
20 to 30 now.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe the technology's changed, but yeah, I just remember, you're in that little tube and you've got to kind of sit in there, but that was an interesting thing. But
I've been crazy in my whole life. I've never had an MRI.
Well, that's a good
5.
thing.
There's probably times I should have, but I just.
You might need an MRI now.
No. I gotta check. We're on the path to good. There's a lot of times I was always afraid of them because I knew that if they ever looked at my knees and stuff, they'd be like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
PRP, baby.
But I lived off of the mindset of, as a Pittsburgh boy, born and raised, and Hines Ward, who is like one of my favorite receivers of all time, played his whole NFL career without an ACL. He tore his in college, or played the rest of his time. He tore his in Georgia, actually, and played the rest of his career without one. So I was one to always feel my body, not take any pain meds, see if it was getting worse or better, try to mend it itself. And if I could play without it feeling like it was affecting me, it didn't worry about the pain so much, but as long as I could still be as fast and do those things, then it's good enough for me.
Well, I have fallen asleep in every MRI, every single MRI.
Really?
It's just oh, dude, every single one of them, all 5 of them. I have just passed the hell out.
Were most of your MRIs post-military career?
Yeah.
Well, that's why. Anyone in the military can sleep anywhere.
I don't think I could have fallen asleep in this one because I was like, well, is this lady about to tell me that I can't play? Probably not. But
it's so much stress. They take your blood pressure then. It's probably just beating through the roof.
And then you're trying to stay still.
If no one's had an MRI, it sounds like people beating on metal drums, and it's just dung, 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 dung. And it is the loudest thing ever.
Bunch of metal spinning at a crazy rate with magnets and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, dude. You know how terrified I was when I went into my first MRI with the plate and screws in my leg? Yeah. I was like, this thing's going to rip out. I told them, I was like, I've got plates here. And they're like,
this better be real titanium. They better not fake this.
Right.
Well, they, in one of the Final Destination movies they just did, I didn't see the movie, but I saw a clip where they Final Destination the guy into an MRI, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I believe it.
But look, I mean, Ryan, I know we could probably talk about a dozen stories from that. I mean, hundreds of stories from that team house time frame.
You're always welcome to come back on and just have a story episode too. But we definitely want to get into more of your business and stuff.
Dude,
I want to talk about Attktx.
Yeah, I don't want to eat you guys up, but
No, you're good. You're not eating us up.
I want to give a shout out to Adam and them for
Yes.
taking such good care of us and giving us all those opportunities. And I mean, for us to be able to play in the NXL, to play in the MPPL, to play in the Millennium Series, to practice twice a month, just so blessed to be able to have that opportunity. And
I was so jealous the one year you guys got to play over there as Philly, and me and
dude.
Tim. So me and Tim played as Tauntauns over there because
Dude.
Adam, as part of Tauntaun sponsorship, they were a Smart Parts team at the time, gave Tim and me to them, right? We're like, okay, that's cool. Like, we always went over and played on other teams over there anyway. It wouldn't be my first time going over there. And then, he tells us, and then he puts our team over there without us. It was brutal watching these dudes win all the time.
I just have to talk about this little kind of millennium stint in these 2 years because, man, what a God, with all of us over there, God, I even talked to Jason Troes, and he's like, dude, that was some of my most fun memories, that period of time. But anyways, Ryan, before we even had the opportunity to go over there, yeah, we were all looking at you and Tim and Pat and be like, dude, like, holy crap, that's awesome. They're going to play for the Tauntauns. And I remember you guys played with Power Trip the year before with Tom, and I was like, man, like, how cool. Well, then at the last minute, basically we were able to go over there, and the deal was that we were going to split the time with the Naughty Dogs. And now, mind you, in this time frame, everybody shot Smart Parts. Dynasty, Legion, Naughty Dogs, Jax, Russians.
Naughty Dogs did?
Dude, everybody shot a shocker at this time. And so anyways, at the very last minute, they get, Adam put in a team that was called the Philly Dogs. Well, that first time we go over there, it was me, Chad George.
I love those guys, but boy, did they screw you.
What's that?
I said, I love those guys, but man, did they screw you guys.
Dude, this is what I'm leading into. Anyways, long story short, the very first tournament, we go over there with me, Fatty, Drew Templeton, Jason Trozen, Todd Hugo, Hugo is one of my all-time favorite players to play with. Chad at the time, 16 years old.
You were his roommate, basically, when you lived here half the time when we were practicing.
Yeah.
You'd stay at Todd's house.
Ryan, because I could get sleep, and I needed my sleep to compete. And
we were a little different.
Dude, you guys could, dude, they would run wild every night, and they would show up to play like no problem, right?
Well, there's some problems. We'd have to spend some time, recovering and stuff. But yeah, on the field, we tried to, we sucked it up and played through it. But I think that all gave us, we're just at a different stage in our life, and it definitely gave us, mentally, I think it helped me in the long run because it made me like play under like pretty adverse conditions, and it kind of gave you a little more of an FU kind of situation when you played. You could play kind of a little bit meaner.
Well, real quick to recap that, we end up going over there. We win the first event. We beat Joy, and then
we're like, lost people the first event. Like it was pretty good.
Well, that last game, that's a very interesting game. There's a video of that. It's very cool, Ryan. I know you'd like to hear the story, but if you recall, at the end of that tournament, they were like, shoot all the air out of your gun. I was the guy to hit the buzzer. We basically, when you would hit the buzzer, you would chrono right away. And if you were hot, it was at no point.
If you were like 301, it was I don't know if it was just a no point or a swing point. Regardless, it was a bad penalty.
It was bad. It was very bad. And it could very easily happen. So they ended up creating a rule for us because that very last point, we weren't going to risk anything.
The whole last game, honestly, you guys did it.
No, I think it was just that last point.
Okay, so it might have been the next tournament that you guys did it the whole time, and then
no, I think they
went after that.
I
remember me and Tim watching, and there was like a whole multiple games of watching you guys do it because they would shoot every ounce. They'd shoot all their paint from their packs.
Well, I remember it was either Adam or Tim who came up with it, and they were like, "Shoot all the air out of your gun." So, needless to say, I wasn't shooting hot, but we were going to leave nothing to chance because we had come back to me.
It's one spike of a rag. It's not like cheating. It's you could have been shooting 280 the whole time, and the one you shoot over is 301, and you lose an event because of that. No.
Exactly. Plus, we had come down from a 3-0 deficit against Joy, and we won that tournament. Anyways, we won that tournament. The whole plan was to send Naughty Dogs over the next tournament.
Oh, well, actually, you are right. They did change it the next event, but what they did was said that you had to make forward progress still, or they would like chrono you if you were sitting still. So that's when we would all just slowly walk towards the base and shoot all our paint.
Right. So Naughty Dogs go over the next event, and they just get blown out. I don't even remember what they take.
So at this point in time, they were Philly Dogs, but Philly played the first event. Naughty Dogs, their entire team played the second event. And I think there was like one or two guys with them. I think it was Todd and maybe Fatty. And when
So
they
whatever-
were over there, I don't know, were you over there for that event at all, or you just?
No, they were like, hey, well, Naughty Dog's going to go over.
They go over, and I remember kind of we're on the field walking it, you know, probably having a beer, well, you know, me, Tim, and Pat, and I'm watching them kind of walk it. And I like the Naughty Dogs dudes were late at first, so they kind of were like fit into places. Then they get there the next day, and they're like, "Oh no, like us two only play right-handed, and like those two play left-handed. So when we switch sides of the field, we always switch sides too." And we're like, "What?" But to them, it just made complete sense. But to like any normal team, like if your whole team's doing that, I guess it's fine. Like,
quick side story, Ryan. We won our first pro tournament together, 06, right? The Texas. Yeah, we won our first that's a story within itself, because that's a whole separate story.
Yeah, we've shared that story a couple times, because that was crazy. It was one of my
we would not have won that tournament had we not heated that paint.
Oh, for sure.
But now, don't get me wrong, that's a separate. But
we heated our whole pit.
So, anyways, Naughty Dog lose the second tournament.
Adam I think 17th place out of 18 teams. They didn't win any games. So now it's a first and second.
We go over.
Last.
Right. We win Toulouse. We lost, I think it was London or something like that with Naughty Dogs. We won Belgium. We won Germany. And then the last tournament we took second. We ended up taking second. And Joy was right behind us each time. Joy won the series.
They got second by like under 5 points, like literally like a 16th place or a 15th place instead of a 16th place. And that second tournament would have won the series for them.
Yeah. Anyways, so look, that amazing times, amazing, you know, we got to see him do a lot, you know, and I owe a lot of credit to Jason Trozen at that time, who was, I think, one of the best coaches of all time. Really, I think, pioneered a lot of the analytics of the game, and just a lot of, you know, I can remember Jason Trozen having meetings being like, hey, this guy runs here 10 times at this point. He does this. Let's shoot for this. You know, there's a lot of, you know, just very good stuff. But I don't want to keep you guys up too late. Let's segue into Attktx if you guys are cool with that.
No worries. Right before we get there, if we can take like five minutes or so, I'd like to talk about, like, you left at the end of the 2008 World Cup, if I remember correctly. I'd like to hear like your decision-making process of why you did, like what you were thinking, and then obviously, like, as a competitor, I know that, you know, when my time's done, like, I still need to find an outlet. I know you got into, like, you know, some bodybuilding competitions there for a little bit. I would assume that was, you know, I guess I want to ask you, I don't want to assume anything. Is that something that you had always had interest in, or is it something that filled the void of competition?
Right. I'm glad you said that, because not a lot of people know. And, like, you know, because, you know, I really only had that conversation with Jason, and so we'd come off second place for whatever reason. We just could not get it done against the Ironmen, and they had just a absolutely just amazing team in this time frame. But we took second place at World Cup.
The 2008 World Cup was interesting too, like, just for people that don't know. So they had 4 different field layouts, right? We didn't have to play on the first one because we had a bye. Like, the top X amount of teams had a bye. So we played on the second field layout, and then the third, and then the finals, there was a different field layout.
I can't remember that.
I might be off one field layout. We were absolutely dominating on teams going in. Like, we had beat, you know, we went through our prelims, which was like the quarterfinals, I guess, because it was after the first bye, change fields. Now we played the Russians in the semifinals, right? Beat them, they were a fantastic team at the time, obviously. We go, now they changed the field layout to a field layout we haven't even stepped foot on, because we're like, why should we practice a field layout that we don't even know we're going to make, right? Like, you have to get there before you can. And I still felt confident. I still thought we were going to do that event. And, like, I don't like blaming things, but, like, paint has a huge effect on your ability to win and lose events. And we had great paint that event until, like, the second half because we were playing best of 3 sets as well, right? So we played the Russians. We beat them in 3 games. I think we won the first, lost the second, won the third. Play the Ironman. By the 3rd game against the Russians, we were using paint that we were trying to set out, but it was like exploding as you set it out. It was leaking at the seams, literally flamethrowing it out of our guns. And now we're going in to play the finals against our biggest rival, which I think that Ironman Philly rivalry in those like 3-4 years was
100%.
Also one of the greatest rivalries of all time.
100%.
There was nothing but disdain for each other, but like mutual respect, and it was entertaining television whenever you turned it on. Like, there was going to be fun games happening, and we go in, and I don't remember the exact order, but we won 1 and lost 1 of the first 2 games with like some of the worst paint I've ever shot, like, and no ability to do anything different. And then we go into the third game, and I think we ended up losing by 1.
Yeah.
And I knew going into that event, you were stepping away, Fatty was stepping away, and I still like vividly remember not only, or you were at least considering it. Like I don't know if you truly decided then or not, but I remember sitting on that field, seeing Fatty like crying, knowing he was going into the Marines after that, and like sitting there and seeing your look on your face, and we're all just kind of in shock and very frustrated. And I still remember what I felt when I had to listen to them hear "We Are the Champion" playing over the loudspeakers with back then, like there was giant grandstands on all 3 sides of the field, and just those feelings you don't forget, good and bad. And I mean that definitely put so much desire in my heart to get back there and try to win. And I didn't win my next World Cup. I got lots of seconds between them, but I didn't win my first World Cup until 2018. And like the amount of it's just not easy. So.
For sure. And I want to sidestep a story here. I can't remember who I was talking about with recently, but nobody looked at paint the way Philly did. Nobody had the scrutiny over the paint, all the different methodology, and it's so funny because I can still see that in Jason Edwards. Like, when I watched, Damage go to do that, Tim was very adamant about it. I mean, Tim, it's like we had it down to a science. And, the reason I say that, Ron, is I'll still watch the webcast and guys aren't heating paint. They're not, it's just like, they're just taking it as it is. They're not, it's just like, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like,
I give a lot of credit to Paintball Fit. They have like full, cold coolers that have air conditions in them and stuff. I'm like, man, that's
no. They've taken it to another level, right? But going back to that, that was an interesting time. If you guys remember 2008, economy basically crashed. It's like, I graduated college at that time. It's like, oh, fantastic, right? So I don't know. I just felt like that we had done a lot of really cool stuff, and I don't know if that a lot of cool stuff was still going to happen. And I had all the pressure of the real world stuff and different things like that. And in hindsight, and I remember I'm in the car with Jason Trozen, and I kind of told people that was going to happen. And I remember Jason was like, hey, like, are you going to stay and play? And I was like, and I really wanted to, but I just felt like I was ready for whatever the next move was. But in a large part of me too, Ryan, like I'm regretful of that. Like, part of me is like, man, I should have stayed and played. I wanted to play. I even to this day, give me a little bit more better shape. I think I can still compete out there. I really do.
Like I said, I do think your playing style even back then would have fit very well into the current game.
I appreciate it. And, of course, you're like, man, how would it go? But, man, I remember seeing you guys. I remember supporting you guys that next season. You guys won the 09 LA. I was like, I was pumped for everybody, And
we playing Ironman in the finals,
Yeah, dude, I was pumped, dude. But also I remember you guys getting a chance to do so many cool things. You guys went to Egypt. You guys did a lot of cool stuff, and I was very happy for all you guys. And so to answer your question about that competitive drive and how you're probably very familiar, all of us as athletes and people who are passionate about something. Here I am, I come off of playing professional paintball, and I'm going in kind of the real world and, these other things. And I'm like, well, man, like, what do I do with all this knowledge and this drive, and how to dissect things in my performance and what I can do. And I also was a big fan of nutrition and bodybuilding, and, same thing. I'd gone to some bodybuilding shows once or twice with my father, and I remember sitting in the crowd saying, I got to go get up there one day. I got to, And so I basically took all of that drive and competitive nature that I'd learned, how to apply it to a different methodology in paintball, and I took it towards starting to take better of myself. And
I do gotta ask.
Go ahead.
My body will never be in that shape. Like when you're in competing shape, like day of competition, what do you actually feel like? Do you feel like a raisin, like pretty bad?
Brian, I only did 2 shows, but I really got serious that one year, and I started training and getting really just, getting very serious. Hey, like, okay, how much am I eating? What am I eating? When am I eating? All of these things. How much water am I drinking? All of these things. I started to really dissect all of it. And as I got more and more into that, kind of the same way, I was like, look, I got to give this a shot. I got to go do it. And I was self-taught, self-trained. I ended up,
I give you a lot of credit too, because I can only assume, but I assume that you did it naturally in an industry that probably 1% of people do it naturally in. So it's like fighting a losing battle right from the rip.
That was very important to me. And I competed in the SNBF, which is the supernatural bodybuilding. And so I was very lucky. I won my first show in my class. And when you win your class, I was lightweight. You go up against the middleweight and the heavyweight. But I want to segue something to what we talk about competitive paintball. I remember I'm backstage. My father's with me. He's, kind of, back there kind of with me. And I've got all these paintball competitive, like competing, like, I've got all these thoughts in my head. And it was so weird because the middleweight winner had come into the room with his coach and they're just sitting there looking at me. It was so weird because they're looking at my physique, where I'm strong, where I'm not. It was just such a weird, because here I am trying to, how it is. We go out there for the games. We're psyched up. We're pumped out. I'm ready in the zone. But it was weird because it had nothing to do with paintball. It was completely different. Right. And, it was just kind of a weird feeling, but I ended up, I won the overall. I beat the heavyweight, and that was just a super cool, just an amazing thing. Anyway, so I still have a lot of passion and love for health and fitness. Ryan, we talk often. I have another thing that I've worked on for many, many years, and I just haven't gotten it off the ground. And I hope to segue and pick that back up. And I'm about 10 classes away from completing a degree in nutrition science, consumer dietetics, and food science. And I don't know if I'll be able to finish those, because to take those 10 classes, I don't know how I'm going to do it. So life takes you in many different ways. But Ryan and Hal, unless there's anything you guys want to touch on, I want to kind of segue.
No, I would love to hear about the foundation and the forming of Attktx, because to me it's like, it's a time machine company. It's a company making cool little accessories for other people's products. That's what made paintball big when I was a kid. So, and that went away because everyone started, making guns that didn't need upgrades, that, you didn't have to put aftermarket triggers and things like that. But the CF triggers, drop down rails, speaking of which, Ronnie wants nothing more than to get one of your drop down rails soon. I got to hear about it all the time. I'm like, yeah, Ronnie, you'll like it. I'm sure. But you do. Your drop down rails, your barrel backs are awesome. Like, I think that's such a cool design, especially now that, I finally convinced most of the industry to go to like standard colors for the inserts, so that those look better instead of having like a bright orange showing through your red gun and stuff. So, but yeah, all your titanium products, like I said, you just did triggers, the drop down rails. I'm sure you have a ton of other things in the works, but you guys obviously started with that the headband hero, which is I think an awesome product. Not one that I use because I use a bandana, and I'm not. But had I be using any sort of headbands like the rest of the league does, I'd 100% wear one, because I was. I'm a chronic sufferer of headaches and migraines, especially when I play, because I'm dehydrating, I'm yelling fully, 100%. I'm susceptible to them anyway. And, these headbands are made out of, thicker denim, harder materials. By the time you knot them, maybe have to double knot them because you're moving a lot, sweating, they're slipping. That's uncomfortable. They have to be tight. They're just digging into your head. And we're not like most sports. We're not getting dressed, playing for 60 minutes and getting undressed. We're practicing for 9-10 hours with whatever you wear. So you got to be comfortable. And it's when you came out with that product, even not being something that I would ever was going to use, I was really cool to see innovation coming from these small, unique places. So I was really happy. I like any sort of ingenuity coming. I enjoy the process of product development and seeing ideas come to fruition. So I thought it was a cool product in the first place, and then seeing you really getting fully on board with it and getting to spend some time and talk to you about it and hear your passion for it was really exciting for me, and it was cool to see.
Yeah, no, dude, I can see a lot of the same in you with what you guys are doing with Lux, right? And it's cool that. And look, I owe a lot of credit to Adam and Billy and that entire Smart Parts experience. Dude, I mean, to see the factory, dude, I went up there to the team house I worked on the factory line for a week. It was one of the coolest experiences, and I'm still friends with Sue Nicely, and I'm looking over her and I'm like, you don't know how lucky you are. Of course, it's just kind of a job to her. And she was very talented, right? She was a master assembler. But man, that was such a cool experience to feel the triggers and touch the guns and go
get completely nerd out about all the different O-ring diameters and this and that.
100%, dude. I'm so grateful for that experience, because that undoubtedly kind of led us into what we are today. testing new product, or, I tell people all the time too, if I mean, look at us on Philly. Hey, if you like the SFT, well, guess what? The NXT is here. Okay, well, you got comfortable with the NXT, well, guess what? The Lux is here, right?
Lux was easy to get used to, though.
True. I mean, come on, dude. The Lux. I mean, like, I remember at that time too, with everybody having to program the boards in the different leagues, when they brought out the technology that spoke to you, dude. Like, what? How cool, right? I mean, such a soft shot, such a just amazing gun. But anyways, I need to tell the story. I splashed the first Lux. I gotta give credit because I splashed the first Lux, and Daryl probably hated me for it. That's a separate story. But
was that your red, white, and blue Philly one?
Yeah.
I actually used that picture. One of the pictures you used in that for the thumbnail that we'll use.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. That's a funny story. Again, I don't want to take too much time, but anyways, so I think that experience playing for Smart Parts and the marketing and the exposure, like 100% product development, all those things, like all those juices were there. And then of course, what I then did later on, working on this product for health and fitness that we haven't quite launched yet. I will also give a lot of credit to Fabrice Almanet from Meteor Paintball, because I connected with Fab, and actually, I don't know if I have it here. Where is it? Anyways, the G Series autococker, mechanical paintball, was coming back around, and I remember
I didn't know there was stuff behind you. I thought that was just a mist.
I got tons of stuff. I don't even know if we can show it on Facebook or if on YouTube or whatever they kind of get you. Well, you got yours back there, but anyways, so Fab reached out to me and he was like, hey, I want to kind of collaborate with you on an autococker. And we created what became the G Series autococker, which is a really, really cool blend of old school. And it's got a lot of STO milling lines, a lot of things that I loved in that time frame. And through that process, working with Fab, we just kind of hit it off. And, me being here in the States and Fabrice in France, it kind of just worked out,
What was that roller bearing side trigger that you did? Was that through Attktx at first, or was that just a separate?
Yes, that's complete from Attktx. And so I'll lead into that. So that was kind of, we're working with Meteor, great opportunity, great experience. Fab's a great guy. We're still friends today. And, but I will say that, Fab started that company back in like 97, 96. So that really was his vision. And so kind of Fab wanted to continue on with his, and, we kind of went different ways with it. But, I'm happy to see him still doing a lot of cool stuff today. Well, I had a lot of good ideas, Ryan, at that time, and a lot of things that I wanted to pursue. And so I was basically how Attktx was formed was I had an idea that I was working on that I took it as far as I could go, and I needed somebody else to basically help me take it to the next level, right? And so when I spent a lot of time, of course, the CAD programs and all that, learning, of course, I mess a lot with Fusion 360 and, there's SolidWorks and all these different programs. And that's really, one thing that I spend a lot of time looking at. I still want to learn more about it, but I was seeking out somebody to help me take that to the next level. And so lo and behold, I had reached out to a gentleman that I had found maybe through LinkedIn or some other matter. I had spent a lot of time talking with a lot of different people. And he was actually like, you know what? I do have experience in this, but I'm going to recommend somebody different to you. Actually, a friend of mine who I think would be much better for this. And that's when I connected with my now partner, Joshua MacLellan. And I remember he told me at the time, he's like, hey, Joshua's a savant.
So you had no relationship with him before this?
Nope. And actually, it's so funny because we talk about technology. But so I connected with Joshua, and we just started, talking. I showed him what I was working on, and we just started going back and forth, and we just built a relationship. And just, we were like, well, look, Joshua was very adamant at the time. He was like, look, I've had a lot of ideas myself, and I want to have an ownership in this. I want to be a partner. And we basically said, well, you know what? We're going to start this from scratch. And so I'd say that was about 4 years ago. And so I'd say for probably 2 years, we worked on Attktx before ever even doing anything. And when I say work on Attktx, I mean everything from the name, the logo, the trademark, the social media presence, the website, the icon, how the big picture of everything, how it was going to work, right? And of course, we started to work on a lot of different products in that time frame. And so for example, we looked at a lot of different names, and we came up with Attktx. And Attktx is basically a blend of attack and tactics. And a lot of people at first, you know, it's one of those where when you see it, you don't really know what it is, but once you hear it, I don't think you'll forget it. And Attktx is really how we approach not only the game and how I love to play the game and our style, but also how we approach design. And so we want to look at everything. We want to look at every single part. It's got to function well. It's got to look well, and it can't be one or without the other, right? It has to work as good as it looks, and vice versa. And hey, you know, so that's how we approach things, and that's kind of, you know, that's how the brand is. And so, like, you know, we started to create the logo, and we love the icon with the clip legged, and I love how all the sharp points meet each other and the two T's, and I love how this kind of creates a shield, and both of these go. So there's just a ton of detail that we worked on for 2 years. I had a lot of experience kind of working on trademarks. I trademarked the brand. Attktx also allowed us to get everything that we needed. So our social media is everything on social media is Attktx. Our website, it's, you know, so once you learn it, I think that people will kind of understand what it is and know where to go. But so we worked on that. We started working on a lot of products, and, you know, of course, the mechanical revolution is happening in this time. And Joshua and I were and still are fascinated by autocockers. And actually, the first product that we designed, Ryan and Hal, is actually that Delta ZFR roller trigger, and that's the first thing that we really. And I'll tell you about that product. We were like, how do we make the most badass trigger? How do we float the trigger? So how do we float the trigger top and bottom? How do we float it side to side? And that was really the whole goal of that product. And so it ended up with a triangulated. And look, Attktx is the combination of Joshua and I. And I will tell you about Joshua. Joshua is very smart. He's very talented. He knows paintball very well. And I think it's because of our combination of what we've done in the industry, what we've done in the sport, and the levels that we've played at, that we're able to really, hopefully, deliver a great product. And what I love about Joshua is that I'll bring it to 85, Joshua will take it to 100. I'll take it to 100, Joshua will take it to 115. And that's how we do things. And we've learned a lot through that time. We're learning a lot. There is a lot to learn. You know,
so it bothers me is people always like, oh, you know, like this is as far as something advanced, and that people have been saying that for, you know, millennia. Like there's always somewhere else to advance. There's always, you know, something that you can look to improve on, to, you know, make out of thin air. Yeah, every year that exists, there's less and less new opportunities to make something. But then there's unlimited amount of new things that you can come up with. And
it's like I mean, think about when they came out with the first car. They were like, "This is it. This is." And now look at us. Think about when the Wright brothers started flying. They're like, "This is it. This is the pinnacle."
No, I think they knew that eventually there might be more than a little glider.
Do you?
The Wright brothers, yeah, for sure.
I don't know, because, like, I mean, it's like you said, people get in the rhythm of once you get somewhere, they're like, this is the pinnacle.
Yeah.
But there's always so much greater beyond it.
Well, you know what? We could have a whole, and Ryan, I'm sure you would feed on this and how we could talk about this too. Like, we could have a whole separate conversation on product design and trade-offs and just every facet that comes with that, which is so very interesting, and it's so very challenging. It's also so very rewarding. But
well, I do really appreciate your attention to detail, and
Yes.
I think that's you know, evident throughout the product. Even like you said, with your first trigger design, you could tell that you took care in packaging, and I know that that's often overlooked. That, like, I'm kind of a packaging whore in the aspect of, like, I enjoy it. Like, I'm gonna throw it away, but I like picking something up that's tangible, that feels nice. And when I see attention to detail go into packaging, I know that that attention to detail also went into the product, because that person cares about the presentation of the product they're doing. You know, that's why I care a lot about, like, some of the packaging we've done differently at DLX and stuff. You know, my time is limited on what I can do, but I still care about, like, the look of things and streamlining. And, like, I think your first interaction with a product is with that box, is with the wrapping. And, like, if you want a good feeling all over, then you have to, you know, start there. And I appreciate that you guys did that, you know.
Appreciate that. Go ahead, Al.
No. I was just going to chime in off Ryan. Gant, I'm a huge duck hunter. I eat, sleep, and breathe duck hunting. And it's like, when I buy a duck call, you know, nice duck calls start around 200 minimum. And, like, when I get the packaging and I open it up and it's like the packaging is crisp, it's clean, like things stand out. You open the box up, and then like the caul comes in like almost like a beanie material, which is great because if a caul gets cold, you can put it in there, kind of heat it back up. And it's just like the packaging, I think that attention to detail, if you can hit that on the head before you even get to the actual product, you know it's going to be amazing.
It definitely makes it feel more tangible.
Yes.
100%. Yeah, you know, and yeah, again, I'm very thankful for Joshua because we have learned a lot about this process and each other. And look, we're making mistakes. There's tons of mistakes to make, and there's tons of things to learn. But
you're always going to be your harshest critic. Like you see the small mistakes because you
100%.
You never get your full vision of a product at the end. It might be better, it might be worse, but it's going to be different, right? So you're always wondering, and you're always looking at these like the minutia of it, even though like on a grand scale. You love what it came out with, and if someone else came out with it, you wouldn't even notice that detail.
For sure, yeah. You know, go ahead, Al.
No.
It takes a lot of time to, you know, learn somebody's personality, learn their traits, learn their style, and you know, where you guys have your identity, like we're finding our identity as well, and we're still learning it, but we're honing in like, hey, how we like to do things and how, you know, and back to what we originally said, you guys, is like. One thing that I'm trying to hold on to, and one thing that Josh and I are trying to hold on to is at Attktx is like, we want to come through with a different perspective. And it's very hard. And I even find ourselves now, like, as we're doing more products and we're getting you sometimes it's, you just want to roll with the same stuff. And it's just like, you get caught up. Well, hey, I need a JT strap. Okay. Well, let's make a JT strap. Okay. Well, wait a second. That's not how we do things. Pull back for a minute. How do we apply our lens to this strap?
Yeah, how are we going to make it better?
Right. You know, so it's kind of that method, you know, our own methodology, and you know, you can see it in all the companies, right? Like you guys have yours, you can see it in Planet Eclipse, you can see it, you know, Method and all these guys. Speaking of methodology, but look, I mean, we're having fun, we're learning a lot, and man, I'm so thankful for, you know, the paintball community and all the customers who have supported us, and you know,
I think a mark of a good product too is like I remember the World Cup you guys came out with the Hero.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing like you guys weren't, you know, giving players like money to use your product. You weren't doing that. And you see the natural flow of different players in the pro league start wearing it. And that's such like a reward as a creator to have people want to use your product right off the bat and get that warm welcome. And it shows that, you know, your vision has legs, and that if you continue on that path and you don't stray too far from it, because sometimes it's easy to like want to stretch yourself too thin. It's just as easy it is to want to stay on like the normal path. So you have to find that balance of, you know, being 100%. Unique, but not over leveraging yourself or your company.
100%, you know, and again, you know, we talk about being an athlete and that competitive, I try and apply that same methodology to this as well. You know, and the industry side is very competitive, but, and I don't even mean like competitive. I mean, like how I see that lens is, hey, look, like we're falling behind with this. We're not ready for the next, you know, it's very much like paintball. We're not in position to make this next move. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know what it is, Ryan, like you can feel, you know, these momentums and all these things, you know, so, I mean, we've done a lot of autococker stuff. We had the Headband Hero. The Headband Hero was the first product that we patented, which is very cool. That's been a very interesting process. And well, excuse me, it's patent pending. So we'll, you know, they don't even pick it up for a year and a half. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, man, we didn't, you know, that World Cup, we didn't have a booth. We didn't have.
Have you guys tried to get that into any other industries?
No,
it seems like there has to be some other carryover industry that would love it.
For sure. Well, I actually a girl by the name of Erica who shoots for PB Shot, she was saying she loves to wear it when she actually runs races. She likes to wear a paintball headband. So it's, again, yeah, I think there is probably some value there, and you know, yeah, it's a great product, you know, and it's definitely one of the things that we're known by. I think that the titanium backs have kind of taken that over. Like people know us by the titanium backs now, and it
even be used for like a karate belt or something. Yeah, I don't know, just different things like that. Well, I'm serious. They're made out of the same material essentially. You're putting them out right on the front. Like
I've never thought of that. I never thought of it.
We
But-
did it, you know. I just-
Yeah, you know, and it really, the Headband Hero was created because, and Joshua had the original idea for the Headband Hero, and it was because, and that's why it's so great for us to be back on the scene playing. You know, Ryan, you know this, how you guys know this, like you can't connect some of those dots unless you have a problem on the field or you want something better. You know, look at all these great companies, all Americans, these guys. Hey, look, we want to be able to shoot further. Let's create the All-American barrel, you know? And so it's been good to do that. It's been good to kind of, you know, be on the sport, you know, be back into the sport a little bit. And, you know, you feel all these things. And the Headband Hero was basically saying, hey, look, you know, instead of taking this band, pulling it as tight as you can against your head, as soon as you let go of it, it's going to start slipping and it's going to want to come off anyways. Next thing you know, the other byproduct of it is, you know, there's the headbands nowadays are $200. You know, it's so you slowly have to tie your headband till it falls apart. Well, we took, not only that, you've got the knot on the back of your head, and the when you roll the band in the back into that spherical shape, that's what creates the pressure point. Well, we took all of these things and it was like, okay, well, what can we do? And of course, the design started very crude, very simple. Probably even a lot of the stuff that you see that people knocked us off the 3D print, right? And we took that and we said, hey, how can we make this better? And it just kept going from modular to curvature to rollers to feeding the band in and out to all of these different things. And that's where we landed on today. And it works fantastic, you know. And it's funny, Ryan, I had the chance to play with Aftershock a couple weekends ago, and I don't have a chance to play as much as I would want to lately, but I had the chance to wear the Headband Hero the whole tournament, and did it work? I like it. You set it and you forget it, you know. And the nicest compliment that we hear from our customers is I didn't have to worry about it. And really, when you don't have to worry about that particular component of your gear, it lets you focus on something else. It's probably very similar to what Ronnie is talking about with the drop, right? I'll segue into the drops. You're right, Ryan. The guns have gotten so good. It's really, number one, I think they've gotten so good that it kind of made all the aftermarket accessories irrelevant. You know, you already have the feed neck, you've got everything you already need. But at the same time, we're coming in looking at it from a different lens, saying, well, you know what, like, you know, there's still some things that can be done here, right? And the drop has been very successful. You know, we on the Planet Eclipse guns, and of course we have some coming out for the Lux Air, because I think people, especially for the larger players, like, dude, like guys that are 6 feet and above, they're like, thank God you made this, because now I can actually hold this thing, right? You know, and
funny you say it's for the larger players, but like a player like Ronnie, I think it's suited for him so much, because I think smaller players, a lot of times when they hold their setup, it can push against the bottom of your mask. It can lift your mask up, things like that. So exactly. And everyone, you know, holds their gun a little bit differently. And like, you want a gun that's like tuned to you, you know?
Well, you know what I think it is, Ryan? I think that back in the day, everybody had a drop at one point or another, right? Everybody shot a drop.
I used to use one of my first Spider Compact B, I had a drop forward with a remote with no stock, you know?
Even in the 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6 era, whatever, like we all had some sort of backwards rail.
The S rails, remember, we used to have them forwards, and then we'd turn them around because we started liking it longer and like.
So I think what happened is, as the air pass went through the grip frame and it got much more complicated, those kind of went away. And again, companies like Lux and Planet Eclipse and all these, the product is so great nowadays that really it's hard to find, right? So we're looking at it, and again, that's very important to us, to protect that perspective of like, you know what is not being done? How do we see it? What would we want, you know? And so
is your version 2 drop gonna have an adjustable length situation? That's not a pained engineer at all, you know. I've never
not drop forward, right? Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I would definitely say that the comfortability realm is something that we're definitely looking in. But I will segue into something like the titanium backs. I just want to let people know a little bit more info about the titanium backs. The titanium backs came because I remember being younger and thinking of how cool it was that Dye had the titanium backs. They were the coolest things. Yeah, I couldn't afford them in the time, but that still didn't make me not love them, right? And nowadays, if you want to shoot one of those old barrels, you've got to either freak bore it or you've got to, you know, adapt it for modern inserts. And none of the machinists will do it anymore. It's too expensive. It's too hard on tooling. None of them will even touch it. And even if you could, you're probably going to spend a couple $100 just to freak bore it, right? So I was like, and Josh and I started talking, what if we could make a titanium back that took modern inserts, was compatible with the modern technology, but we could skeletonize it to hell and back so we could see the insert. And that's where we came up with the titanium backs. And that's where we came up with the skeletonized design.
And as light as titanium it still adds some weight. So like the skeletonizing of it, like takes that away. So you're not making it too front heavy.
True.
Like I know, like, yeah, obviously the boomsticks and the titanium backs were so cool back then. But for a while, I used the titanium All-American front. We only had a few prototypes. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, because I used to love the sparks. You know, you play in some
super cool.
And when you have a front like that, the ball and the dirt and in there, you'll see literal sparks. So anytime around like dust, especially, like it was the coolest thing ever. It looks like you're shooting like a shotgun and you're getting that afterburn of it. So I still have that laying around somewhere, but I haven't seen it in a while. So.
That's there's. Go ahead, Hal.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, Ronnie and I have been talking. You know, I talk with Ronnie and Ryan about almost every day. Probably annoy the hell out of them and bless them for their patience with me. But you know, Ronnie and I were talking the other day about Attktx and like how all these little things that y'all are doing is actually monumental. It's bringing back, as Ronnie loves to say, it's bringing back ag. Like it's bringing back customization into players, and it's the little things like that imposes who they are.
Yeah, 100%.
And like it's like Ryan said earlier, and Ronnie said during the conversation we had the other day, it's what the industry has been missing. Like the customization and the being able to go in depth to like what you like, how you want to look. It's a beautiful thing to see come back into the sport, and it's what it's been missing.
Well, thinking about it now, it had to be a lot harder to balance that, because before, like, you could use any aftermarket part on a gun, but now sponsorships are so tied to everything, right? So you probably had to balance your relationships with different companies to not burn any bridges, because like all of a sudden, if like you do something against one of these main companies, now none of their teams can use any of your products.
For sure, 100%. And you know, you know what it is? I mean, it's accessories, but also it's. Again, it's hard because the guns are so good. I mean, nobody under any circumstance pulls those guns out of the boxes is like, you know, there's nothing wrong with those guns. Put it that way. You know, I think where we're approaching it is just like, well, how could it be better for you individually, right? Ronnie Deason's a perfect example. Ronnie, and you know, of course, you know, I may not have been in the game, but I'm also a student of the game. I know what these guys like to shoot. I know like how they like to have their setup. Ronnie likes to have a long tank, you know, all these different things. And, you know, if a 1/2-inch drop makes it a little bit more comfortable for him, or shorter tank, or vice versa, or whatever it is, like that's what we all want at the end of the day. We all want to go out there and just instantly be able to feel good about it, because there's enough things in paintball to worry about. You know, it's like, shit.
Yeah. I like to imagine picking up my paintball gun as like a samurai picking up his sword. You know, it's just part of you. Like you don't want to think about anything. You don't want to feel off. Like I could pick up someone else's, you know, gun that's the exact same technically, and it just doesn't feel right in my hand. Down to the way the trigger's set, down to the way that. So if those intricacies matter that much, like all these details matter. And if you can personalize it to where you're picking it up and it feels like second nature, like, you know, it just feels like an extension of you, you're in a really good spot.
Especially the higher you go in those levels, the more particular the players are, you know, and so yeah, I mean, we're trying to do a lot of stuff with that, and I just wanted to kind of touch back with the titanium backs. That was a big risk for our little small brand, you know, and you guys talk about, you know,
it's a lot of machine time, a lot of cost, a lot of design work, a lot.
Well, like you had mentioned before, Ryan, it's very easy with a product to start. Well, guess what? We want this, this, and this, but guess what? You got, you know, price, time frame, all these other things. And next thing you know, and really we just were like, hey, look, it's got to be this. And so we went all in. And of course, to commit to that, it was, you know, a big risk, you know, where people are going to say, look, like, you know, these are very cool. And I know there's a lot of intricate amount of machine work and detail. And look, there's 4 logos in it. There's 80 machined holes in the center section alone. There's 3 sets of threads. I mean, it's, you know, it's over the top. And one really cool detail, you guys, that not a lot of people know, our icon is every one of those 80 triangles with the little leg cut off. It's a very subtle detail, and that product was meant to be a statement piece for us to say, hey, look, like, this is the level that we want to do things, and this is the level of detail that we want to be able to show you guys. And thankfully, people have been very supportive about that, and it's kind of cool. They've become kind of that thing that we wanted them to be. And, you know, one of these days they're going to be sold out. Can we do another batch? I don't know, right? Maybe will we do another batch? I don't know. But, you know, it's cool to have those things in paintball that, you know, I can remember being like that, you know?
I think that's one of the neatest thing about smaller boutique companies is there is market for this. It's just, do bigger companies, if they can't make something at scale and make it worthwhile to, like, you know, a bigger percentage, it's not worth making, but like there's a market for it, so that if you can find, you know, the time and the passion to make, you know, limited runs of these, for one, it makes it more wanted, because people want, you know, limited things, period. People, that's why you saw drops catch on for so long and things like that. But for two, you get to make it to your, you know, to your standards and sell it for the cost that it needs to be sold for, and understand that because you don't need to sell it in mass quantities, that you'll be able to sell it, because there's always a market for people that want, you know, the coolest, you know, market leading instrument of whatever that is.
100%. And, you know, it's and I will say, like, every product that we do, we pour the same attention to detail. So where you were saying, Ryan, like, yeah, some of the, you know, all the autococker parts we've done some really unique autococker parts. And look, the Delta ZFR, that roller bearing trigger, the amount of time and detail and design into that trigger alone. The point that I'm getting at is, yeah, we need to also be smart about, hey, do we go after maybe a bigger project than like a trigger design or whatever it is, right? But again,
the trigger kind of made me sad, because I appreciated you guys like waiting until it was what you wanted to come out with. But realistically speaking, the way the autococker boon went, if you could have had that out 2 years sooner, you guys would have been flush with money. You know, everyone was still using their cockers. It was before, it was still cool too.
Yeah,
you know, before all the guns, you know, had moved so far past them that it was
it was very late in that whole cycle. But we were like, you know what? We talk about this titanium act. We wanted to show people this first product. Here's what we're going to pour into something.
Because that sets the stage for your company. So regardless if you sold as many as you could have sold by having it come out early, it showed the pride in your work, the pride in what you were going to release. And so even though, like I said, it wasn't as successful as I think it would have been, it was still, you know, a good starting point for you guys.
100%. Yeah. And we look at it that way as well, you know, and everything has been a learning experience. And again, you know, look, we're only 2 years into this. I feel like we have a lot to bring, and I feel like we have a lot of things that we're going to try and do. And I want to do all the collaborations. And dude, I'll be honest with you, it's been great to work with the paintball industry. Like, you know, we're dealers for Lux, we're dealers for Eclipse, and we've worked with, you know, small companies like us. We've worked with headband companies. We've worked with, you know, all sorts of people. And it's cool, man, because I've always been on the player side of it. It's very cool to be in the whole industry collaboration side of it, you know. And look, we're a small thing at the end of the day, and it has been really fun to work with different companies, you know. And but anyways, you guys, yeah, so we're having a good time, and you know, this doesn't happen without my partner Joshua. It doesn't happen without my wife, and I'm sure Joshua's family as well. Because look, I'm very thankful for my wife, dude. We have QC'd, we've assembled, we've packaged tens of thousands of parts, and we spend half of our time doing that, you know. And I'm
the more the company, the more hats you wear.
Oh, dude, I mean, I you know, we got back from USXBL yesterday. I've done, you know, all shipping parts today. I talked with Ronnie Dizon, got him some cool stuff that he's going to be messing with, and all the other customers and all the issues, whether it be changing out a color or, you know, all the things, you know. And I love that at the same time. Like, I love to be in tune with everything. I loved all of that. But yeah, it's a lot, dude. It's a whole lot, because how do you keep the next product moving as well? And, you know, Joshua and I are learning how to balance all that, you know. And but anyways, nothing that nobody's not done, and nothing that it doesn't come with the territory. So, you know, we're also very grateful for it, you know. And but anyways, you guys, what other little kind of the question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time. It is late, so we won't
Late.
keep you too long. But I know how we'll at least ask you another question before we end this. And as always, like, you're more than welcome to come back on anytime. We'd love to have you back on just to spend some time sharing some more stories.
Appreciate you guys.
I always feel that like you can sit down with someone who you only get to talk with in passing sometimes still. And you talk for 2 hours and you're like, oh man, I still have so much I could have said, or so much we could have talked about. So you're always welcome. And I appreciate you carving out the time for us.
I appreciate you, Ryan. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity, and I really enjoyed being here tonight with you guys. And I think you guys have a very fun, very, like I said, laid back, cool thing where you can talk paintball, but you can also hear good times and good stories, And Ryan, it's been great to reconnect with you again. I got a ton of respect for you. I always have. You're a great player. You're a great mind, and I think that it's great to see you as well as myself in the industry now. Kind of giving your feedback, and we're that generation that I have no doubt that will continue to make great products. And I think that paintball is in good hands in that aspect.
100%.
Hal, it's been great to connect with you too, man.
Thank you. No, it's been so awesome. When Ryan told me today you were coming on, I was like, oh hell yeah. I was like, this is gonna be awesome. I was
cool.
like super excited, and
you dropped a hell yeah in your head? Were you like, hell yeah?
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
You know it, man. But no,
I need to get my hands on one of those jerseys you guys did with the ducks on it. That's pretty dope, dude.
Yeah.
I can make that happen.
Okay, well, you let me know. You let me know how much it is, and I'd be happy to purchase one.
I got you covered.
All right. No. You let me know.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
All right, you let me know the link.
Yeah, I don't feel like hearing you guys squabble over this. So, you got any more questions for Get My Man?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Ryan. Gant, I always ask Ryan or the guest, what is like good dad / life advice you could give to anybody listening? Doesn't have to be paintball oriented. It can be just straight life advice.
I'm just one that popped in my mind that I've talked about recently is take that opportunity, one way, shape, or form. Don't turn it down. And if you get that opportunity and you're trying to figure out how do I make it happen, you take the opportunity and figure it out on the back end, right? I see that so many times, and especially in paintball, like I've given a lot of opportunities that were given to me as well. Like, hey, do you want to come play an event? You never know what coming to play that event could open the doors for you. Yeah. Take that opportunity and figure it. I guess what I'm saying is, and what people mainly say is, say yes and figure it out later.
Make it work.
Right? So I guess that's what I'll share.
I love that. I genuinely love that. It's some of my best life experiences, and I know with Ryan and obviously you had no idea going into it was complete dark. You had no idea what was in front of you, but then once you're there, the light is so bright. You're so thankful you took a chance.
100%.
I love that.
So we're gonna roll the outro, and then just stay on for a few minutes after, and then we'll close up. Appreciate you, man.
Well, Gant, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely wonderful sitting down. Awesome. And then for everyone listening, real quick, where can they find you at?
So well, again, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity and having us, be on to speak about it a little bit. But you can find us at Attktx. So everything, Attktx.com, and on social media, you can find us on there. And if you ever need something, just let us know.
Perfect. With that being said, we'll catch everyone in the next one. Peace.
Well, the whiskey's low and the story's all done, but we sure had ourselves some fun. From tall tales told to the last good pun, you've been rolling with the rowdy ones. Thanks for listening, y'all.